Doctor Who has had many spin-offs in the last 20 years, ranging from things like Torchwood, Sarah Jane Adventures and Class, and there was even one proposed in the 80s called K9 and Company. As you can see in this video, K9 has a pretty bad rap with shows, but all of the actual televised spin-offs feel like it's part of Doctor Who. From actual Doctor Who characters making cameos in these shows, if it's from villains to the Doctor himself, it all feels interconnected and part of a bigger universe. There are lots of other spin-off media from the time where Doctor Who was cancelled, and even pretty recently, that I will probably look at in the future, but for today's video, I want to focus on a pretty weird spin-off featured in probably one of Doctor Who's best golden ages, and that's it's the K9 Adventures show. Now, this spin-off show, although 100% a spin-off of Doctor Who, wasn't produced by the BBC, and therefore couldn't make any proper references to Doctor Who for legal reasons. So this feels completely disconnected from the show, but it is completely connected. Although legally the show wasn't allowed to make references to Doctor Who, it didn't really stop them. They put stuff like the Sea Devils in Alpha Centauri, in paintings and stuff like that. There was even a character that referenced the Axons in a prison cell. So they did try and at least make it sort of connectable, but it just didn't stick. I don't know many Doctor Who fans that know of this show, and if they do, they don't particularly like it. The first episode feels really off as well. We see the K9 that the majority of Who fans will recognise and love, before the character regenerates. Like, it literally just regenerates.
Regeneration Unity log indicates you saved it from damage.
What are you?
What am I? My name is K9.
Like, just what? Now, the K9 unit and just the K9 we see in this show isn't the same as the one that we see in the Sarah Jane Adventures, the original one that we see in School Reunion. These are all different K9 marks. Now, this K9 was actually on Gallifrey, and, you know, there is a convoluted history with this K9. Even somebody like me who understands the large majority of stuff to do with K9 and how he got to this point in his life, this is a weird, confusing mess of a show. K9, to some extent, as much as he is a great character and an iconic character, he can be pretty annoying. So having a whole show around him, which is 2 seasons long, is just mind-numbingly bad. Although the Sarah Jane Adventures TV show was made for, you know, younger kids and young pre-teens, it felt like it was a show that could be enjoyed by all. I can happily go back and watch that, and the costumes look great, some of the characters are amazing on that show. Where with this show, it feels very tacky. Its over-reliance on CGI is awful, and its bad costumes for monsters and how they come across makes this show feel incredibly cheap and tacky, and to be fair, I don't know why they made it.
Keep moving, you. Look lively. Hurry up. To the left now. Keep moving.
Of course, classic Who had some bad costumes and bad sets, but it felt charming. It felt enjoyable to watch. This doesn't. I don't get any joy out of watching it, and trying to get a personal connection from K9 in this show is really, really hard. In the actual show, when we see K9 and in Sarah Jane Adventures, we feel a connection to this character because the surrounding cast is so great. It helps build up a great connection. Where here, the cast is clearly trying something, but it just doesn't work. I feel no connection to this cast. I watched the full 2 series of the show, and I just didn't enjoy it. I felt no connection to any of these characters by the end. This show is also meant to be set in London, England, but all of the characters have pretty strong Australian accents, so it does throw you off a little bit as well. I don't recommend this to any Doctor Who fan, and I recommend nearly everything. There are some really, really weird spin-off media. Something that comes to my mind is stuff like the Autons and stuff that was made during Doctor Who's cancellation period. Then there's some even weirder stuff, like a really weird Zygon movie from 2008, and even weirder stuff that's been made on, that I will be making a full-fledged video about. But I don't recommend the K9 show to any of them. This show isn't interesting, it isn't bad, it's just incredibly boring. They're trying something here and it just doesn't stick. So if you are a die-hard Whovian and you want to watch all content, go for it. But you're not going to enjoy it. It's very much a show that you put on for background noise.
Oh dear, the puppy's crying.
That's not a cry. It's a shriek. A Jixon battle shriek.
Jackson?
He's calling the Jixon to do battle against the Miron.
I mean, if you can listen to that sort of stuff as background noise, then go for it. I mean, commending to you, honestly. When I discovered this show several years ago now, I went in genuinely wanting to enjoy this show. I didn't go in hate watching. I didn't really know what the show was about. I hadn't looked at any reviews. I just knew that this was a K9-based show. And K9's a pretty good character. He's iconic. And I wanted to enjoy this show genuinely. But it's just a hard watch. If you're a Doctor Who fan, it's a hard watch. I'm assuming people that didn't know that this was connected to Doctor Who because it doesn't really make any specific references probably might have even enjoyed this show, but as somebody who has watched Doctor Who and other spin-off media for Doctor Who, it's a hard watch. I mean, at least it's got like a pretty good intro and outro. Like, it isn't a bad intro. Like I actually think this might be the best part of the TV show, is the intro and outro. You see K9, you see a pretty cool logo. I think this might genuinely be the best bit of the show. And I don't usually like to absolutely dog on something to look to, because usually there's lots of positives, but I do struggle naming any positives with this show. In my opinion, I don't think K9 is a strong enough character to have him with a solo show. A main character of this show, a show named after him, I don't think he's a strong enough character to be able to do that. If he was with another character, like he was great in the Sarah Jane Adventures, he was great in Doctor Who, because he's always paired up with other characters and he bounces off them well. If the K9 show was a full BBC production and they followed the actual stuff that was going on with this K9 Mark, like having him on Gallifrey, this would have been a pretty enticing show, I think. I think it would have worked. I genuinely believe if they had paired K9 up with another companion like Leela, pretty similar like they did in Sarah Jane Adventures, having him there as a background character, or maybe even as a secondary main character, I feel like it would have worked. Having interesting characters next to K9 works. In this show, I'm not interested in them. They're pretty boring characters. I don't want to know anything more about them. I quite frankly want to know less and I want them off my screen. I don't want to completely hate on this show because some of the characters are genuinely trying. The scene on screen right now is a scene that I genuinely quite enjoy and I like this character. I like some of the characters in the show and I genuinely think there was a passion that went into the show. I don't think it was just for money. I genuinely feel like they had something with it, but they just didn't utilize it properly, and it's a shame because there are some characters and some scenes that make this show pretty good at times, but the overwhelming majority of this show is just mediocre and bad. I would honestly give this show a 4 out of 10. It's not completely unwatchable, but I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it with the knowledge I have about this show now. But yeah, that was the K9 show. They even did a bit of merchandise for this show, and overall, if you are a Doctor Who fan and you seriously want to watch this, go for it. I'm not stopping anyone. But I will be looking at some other spin-off media for Doctor Who in the future, including the Auton stuff, the weird Zygon stuff, and a really weird movie that was made pretty recently. So if you do enjoy this video and you want to see more of that, please consider liking and subscribing. But I've been your host Samuel, and I will catch you in the next Doctor Who video.